should you use Ruin's Edge in Oblivion Remastered, especially for Master Mode? I think you should, and I just want to demo what this thing can do really quick. So first we have to find a clean shot on this guy. Keep shooting until he frenzies, and immediately we have an NPC on our side fighting for us. Now, Ruin's Edge has a 30% chance to frenzy, and frenzy makes NPCs, which are, you know, humanoids slash black soul gem things, you know, like Dramoras, humans, and so on. It makes them attack random targets and especially attack enemies. Now, against Daedra and undead and most creatures, it has no effect in terms of the frenzy. So if you want to go for a frenzy, it's not going to be the thing for you. But let's actually look at this thing. Is this worth running? And should you use it? Ruin's Edge is acquired pretty early on in Shivering Isles. And if we look at the quest list, you can actually quickly get to Lady of Paranoia, even in early game, and acquire this weapon. And it's about as strong as a Dwarven / Silver Bow. So if you get this at level 1, it is objectively better than things you can get at level 1. So just for raw damage, it's worth getting. And it's also not that hard to get. The quest list, in order to get to that point where you do get it, is quite easy to do. But next we have to talk about the features of this thing. So like, what does this actually do? So it has different percent chance to produce illusion effects. So 1% chance to paralyze for 15 seconds, 9% chance to paralyze for 1 second. So right out of the gate, if you just care about paralyze, if you get 100 marksman, which gives you a 25% base chance to paralyze, by running Ruin's Edge, you bump that up to 35% chance to paralyze every shot, which is basically 1 in 3. And that's very good, because in Master Mode, unless you're using destruction ramping or poison, you're probably going to need to shoot things a few times, so having a paralyzed bow is always useful, even if nothing else. But it also has a 10% chance to silence for 20 seconds, which does affect any enemy. And it has a 20% chance to demoralize, a 30% chance to frenzy. As I demoed earlier, I was able to get a frenzy off, so 1 in 3 shots frenzies, and if you frenzy an NPC, it will fight for you. So that Dramora killed the Clan Fear and put some damage on the Zivali for me, just by shooting it with Ruin's Edge like 2 or 3 times. And then it has a 30% chance to burden. Now, the burden is pretty interesting, because in the remaster, burden is actually useful. So let's see if we can get a burden on him. That was a frenzy proc. You'll know it's a burden because it'll be purple. That looks like a silence. That's a silence. There's the burden. So it makes everything move slower, no matter what. And if things are over encumbered, they'll move exceptionally slow. Even though it doesn't force him to hit encumbrance limit, it still slows down fast targets and allows you to reposition and kite and kind of weave in and out of their attacks a little bit easier because they're much slower. So that is still pretty useful. But what else is good about this bow? So this bow has 80 uses when fully charged, and also its charge is only 400. Now, certain weapons that have higher charge take more soul gem capacity to recharge them fully. So essentially what you get is you get a bow that can crowd control all enemies through paralyze. It can mind control humanoids, including Dramora. Not Daedra, those are different. Dramora are the humanoid Daedric dudes. It can mind control them to fight for you. It's really good early game in terms of raw damage because it's better than most bows. It's really cheap to recharge relative to other weapons, and it has 80 uses. So this thing is like the perfect early to late game tool for Master Mode, because worst case scenario, you have a bow that can silence and paralyze and help, you know, set up a paralyze on an enemy, in addition to frenzying humanoids and just being generally good. So for early game, it's good for the damage, it's good for the crowd control, and for late game, it's good for the paralyze, the silence, and for the frenzy. But let's look at the recharge cost, because that's actually a huge aspect of this. So weapons like Chillrend have really high enchant capacity, meaning that if you want to recharge them fully and get their uses back all the way up to maximum before it depletes, you have to pump a lot of soul gems into it. A grand soul gets you 1600 charge level. So petty, lesser, and common souls are perfect for Ruin's Edge because its low capacity allows you to easily recharge it. So you can get like junk soul gems or just kill like rats and just like stupid enemies that no one would ever consider seriously killing to recharge these high soul level charges. And you can actually fully reset it. So keeping it at maximum charge is really easy. So really just lesser and petty soul gems will keep this thing fully charged. So it's very good actually. It's a really good utility bow. I have it bound to 5, so whenever I want like crowd control or utility, like if I want to put burden on something, if I want to go for a silence / paralyze or a frenzy, I can do that, and then I can always switch to my actual bow for damage, which in this case is a madness bow. Currently it's not enchanted though, but it's still a really good utility for late game. I was able to mind control that Dremora, have him put damage on the Zivali, kill the Clan Fear, and now he's also dead. So it usually just thins the herd. The other thing that's nice too is you can frenzy multiple humanoids. So if you're fighting like 10 bandits or whatever, like 10 humans at once, especially against the Knights of Order, this is really good against Knights of Order. There's usually like massive amounts of Knights of Order in Shivering Isles. So if you want to make use of this to frenzy multiple Knights of Order so they start infighting and killing each other, that can be huge value. It almost feels like it's designed for that. But even just for the crowd control and the paralyze, it's still quite good. Its base damage for endgame in terms of damage isn't the best, but it's still pretty strong. All right, so if I had to give this thing a rating, what would I rate it at? I'm gonna give this, I would say, a 9 out of 10. It's insanely good early game, especially when your build isn't online, because you can frenzy NPCs. NPCs meaning like humanoids. It also has really good damage relative to early game bows, so it just has a better base damage relative to, you know, starter bows. And then for late game, it's still good for the frenzy. It's good for the paralyze because it has extra paralyze chance. It also can silence, so as you're shooting things, you're either going to slow them down, silence them, paralyze them, frenzy them, or demoralize. Now, demoralize, I believe, is also NPCs, so 20% chance to demoralize causes things to run away from you, which also shuts them down. So if you are firing this on NPCs, firing this at NPCs, you have a 50% chance to frenzy or demoralize them. So 1 in 2 shots just shuts down a humanoid, which is crazy value. And also, if those effects get mirrored, for example, reflected on you, frenzy on you does nothing to the player. Demoralize on you does nothing because you're the player, so it has no effect. So it's actually pretty safe to use against like magical threats as well that have like spell absorb and spell reflect. In some cases you can nuke yourself with spell reflect, so you have to be careful. But overall, I think it's a very strong bow. You should rush it for early game if you're making an archer that doesn't want to use magic. It's really easy to reset. It has 80 uses at full charge, which is insane. And the fact that it's like 1 in 3 chance to frenzy, 1 in 2 chance to crowd control humans, it's just massive value in a game where on master mode enemies take such little damage from you. But that is it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you found this useful or interesting. And also consider dropping a comment as to how you use this bow and if you think it's any good. And I'll see you guys next one. Peace.